Welcome to Block 6 of the Speed Agility component of the Athletic Development Program for the Advanced. So this is 3 components. The first one is your hopping sequence, the second one is our acceleration and deceleration focus, and the last one is our speed, sort of our close to max speed work. So the first one is the hopping, as I mentioned. So we've gone through a lateral focus, a sagittal focus, so forward and back. Today is a more rotational focus, right? So I think the rotational stuff is something that gets neglected a lot in the program, but something our sports demands a lot of us. So it's important that we train in these planes of motion, as opposed to just understanding they are there, but never actually training there. So they'll be quite tough on the body. It may not seem tough initially, but the loading sequence that's going on through the body is quite demanding. So we're not going to go huge volume on all these, but build up as you see fit. So the first one is fairly straightforward. So imagine he's stood in the clock and he's jumping out at this 45 degrees behind himself, or 45 degrees there, which you want, and maybe a 4 or 5 in the clock face, or a 7 and 8 in the clock face on the other side. So just take your time. You're just going to jump and stick, and you're going to sort of jump and rotate back as sort of far as you possibly can. So good. See, what's good here is that Ronan is loading up himself before he jumps. It's not just he's standing here and then doing the jump. He's actually loading up into the movement and then making the jump. So that's good. Hopping and sticking, that's perfect. He's sticking as well, so it's a real force generation movement, but also a force absorption movement. So he's absorbing himself in a nice, good, what we call athletic position, so a position where he can move from again. And practice that when you're doing these jumps as well. Don't jump too narrow, and so on. So again, the focus here is not jumping up too high, it's jumping out towards the movement. Yeah. So yes, you have to load up, so there's going to be a level of vertical movement because you have to get yourself off the floor, but primarily we're trying to jump out as far back as we possibly can. Okay, the next movement then is a pogo to rotation. So we're still doing the rotation stuff, but the first one is we do a pogo into it. So you're all familiar with the pogo. So your feet are relatively straight, pointed upward when you do the movement, 5 repetitions, and then you're going to jump back on yourself in the same direction that we were just doing for the first exercise. Okay, so yes, Ronan, when you're ready. So 5 pogo hops. Toes up here, toes up, toes up, toes up, and then you're jumping back and landing. Perfect. Now, it's good there. What this exercise is obviously challenging is the pogos, the complexity of the pogos, and the integrity of the movement. But then when you're on the final one, then you got to transmit all that force going up and down into a rotational movement, which is quite tough to do on the body. Good. Yeah. Good. Good. And then jumping back to the side. That's perfect. We'll do just one more rep so you can see. Up, good height, good movement, and then and remember, I always say to you, there's a few things with the plyometrics. There's one, how much force you can generate. There's 2, how quickly you can generate that force, so how quickly off the floor you are. But also there's a timing element. So the timing element of force coming down, generating force back up, and then rotating it is a coordination movement and a skill that needs to be practiced, and that's why we got it in the program. And the final one then is basically your jump lunges, but just in a rotational kind of bias. So what Ronald will do is load up again like he did before, jump out towards me, 45 degrees, jump back to where he is again and try and get in that starting position, and then jump out to the other side, back to the middle, and that's one repetition. Perfect, that's good. Now again, you can do this very shallow to begin with, you can do slow to begin with. It's not saying you have to do it maximal all the time. Just get used to the movement at home first, make sure you have the required space, make sure there isn't anything around you that you can jump into, because you are jumping on your blind side, so make sure there isn't a tie or something behind you to fall over. Just make sure you have the room to jump into these movements. And by all means do these on a grass with boots, but if you're inside, you use the space that you have in your home. So we'll do one more repetition. So jumping out, 45, back, 45, back to center again, 45. All the reps and sets will be put on the PDF after this. Okay, now we're going to our Excel decel stuff, right? So just to show you what we're going to do here. So we're gonna always emphasize what's important, right? So it's a good starting position, athletic position, and driving off that back foot, getting into a forward lean, and then from there it's all about that pistol action. What that means is you're trying to get over your inertia, so you're not putting your foot in front of your center mass. It's always underneath your center mass or behind your center mass. And as you're getting into the acceleration, what we're focusing now on today is cutting. So cutting at 90 degrees, right? And what we're looking for here is if you're turning to your left, your right foot will get out of your center mass to drive you over there. Too often And you'll notice here we've no cone set at 5 degrees. Allow a free space for you to move in, because if you put a cone here and a cone 5 meters, it may upset your cadence of your running, which makes it a very unreal movement. So you have to just run out as normal, and then when you're going to turn right, you have that step or left, stepping on that outside of the foot, and then accelerate, and it's back into the same mechanics. And then important that we decelerate. It's about 5 meters. The distance here between the middle and outside, make that 5 or 7 meters, how much space you have, and decelerate fully. And you know how to decelerate now, showing one way in a nice athletic position, and that's 1 repetition. You're going to do 4 reps in your left, 4 reps in your right, have a breather, and repeat that 2 more times. Okay, so let's go through running. Let's have a look. Good athletic position, good back step, good driving the outside step, and then decelerating. Very important. There's components here of the game that will always be in the game, so getting better at them is just going to benefit your performance. So good athletic position, because you've got to be ready to go any direction, driving into center, and then change direction. That distance here is about 5-6 meters. You know, that's at home what it should be, right? So 5, 6, 7 meters is absolutely fine. There's no, I don't like prescribing the absolute distance, because in the game you don't know when exactly that will be, but around 5 to 7 meters is about appropriate. And just make sure there's no cone here or pole that's going to influence how your gait is coming up to the movement, which often manipulates it into a poor gait, which isn't transferable to your sport. So make sure this area is free, and then make the change of direction appropriately after that. Okay, just remember the principles, good athletic position, and when you get in here, that outside step. So when I say outside step, the reason why I'm saying that is a lot of times I see if there's a cone here, we'll do an inside step to turn and then drive ourselves around, and really that's poor mechanics for, because the step is usually outside my or ahead of my center mass. I'm dragging myself around the cone, and then I'm accelerating myself through, but that's never going to happen or it's not the most efficient way to turn, let's just say. Okay, so there's your acceleration and deceleration mechanics, so practice them at home. Now we're going to go on to our speed. So we're in our development phase, we're still at 90%, so don't go over 90% here. There's a lot of utility in doing sub-maximal. Obviously, of course, we have to do maximal at one point, but there's great utility in doing sub-maximal running as well, because majority of the time it's sub-max. It's not always 100% in every game, although we have to go there at times. We don't need to go there just yet. Okay, so back to here. Again, I've set up, which isn't accurate dimensions here, but at home, kind of set it up similar to what I'm saying here. So 10 meter track, then a 30 meter track, and then another 10 meters. The other 10 meters there is to slow down gradually. Okay, so we have a few things that we want to do. Obviously, these are repeating themselves quite often, but you can never do too much of the right stuff enough. So let's we're on our A skips, so you know our A skips now. What we're looking for here is the foot comes up through the shin, you're driving through that cyclic action of the feet, yeah, and pushing down into the floor, pushing down, force into the floor. So the coaching point here is push the floor away. So lots of force into the floor as you're moving up the track. So move up 10 meters, good, and then you're into your 90%. Of course, on the first rep, you guys know that you're not going to be able to go 90% on the first rep. You obviously need a bit of time to warm up, so build up to that 90%. The first repetition might be 80, might be 75, but hopefully you'll get 90% a couple of reps in this. So 2 reps or 3 reps in this drill will be appropriate for sprint. So A skips on the first one, and then sprint out. Okay, so we just repeated the same one there again. The second thing to do is your B skips. So that's our A skips. There's good mechanics on the A skips, lots of force into the floor. The next one is B skips. And the B skips is similar in its mechanics to max speed. A skips is more like acceleration, and B skips is more like max speed mechanics. So max speed mechanics is that foot coming around, balls your feet, scrapes the floor. Do it slowly to begin with to get the movement right, and then as you get better, kicking the hip around, and then once you hit the floor, once you hit 10 meters, sprint out 30 meters, then slow down gradually. Again, just give yourself feedback on each rep. Am I bringing my hip through? Am I getting all the way through? Is my foot hitting the floor under my center of mass? These kind of things, and am I looking upright? All the coaching points come out here. And the next one is our jockeying. So if we're going to go jockeying, so when we see jockeying, see these done in many good ways and also many bad ways. Just make sure here the principles of this movement is that your feet are always wide apart, but hip width apart or wider. your feet never cross too much, and then you go into 90%. So if I just do it face on when I'm coming across here, and the movement here, the key point here is now how do I turn out of this movement. And if I cross to then turn, I lose out so much. So make sure you're here, and then I goes to turn, I'm opening up my feet again, then I'm back, and then I'm opening up my feet again. That allows me in a good position, because you know, the higher up the levels you go, players will notice that you're off balance in this position, and then when you make a movement it's harder to turn. But if you're already in a good position to move, that will benefit you in your marking or your defending or whatever it might be. So that's the jockeying. Then the lateral movement, so we're going to face me on the first one. Again, the same things apply. Feet hip width apart, shuffling across all the way to here, and then open up into a sprint. Good. And sprint forward, and then you're 90%. We're probably up to around 90 now. Important point here is though, keep your feet pointed forward when you do the shuffles, right? So you don't want to externally rotate your feet. You don't want to have your glutes out of the movement. You want to have your glutes in, so they're in when my feet are forward, as opposed to externally rotating my feet. Face the other way, same thing. Feet forward, feet forward, feet forward, and then into a sprint. Good, same thing, keeping that nice wide base of support as I shuffle across. Look forward as well when you do it, because in a game you're not going to be looking at your feet, you're going to be looking forward, so you need that proprioceptive feedback of the body. You can check yourself every now and again, just make sure you're looking forward. And last one is a straight leg. So you've done these before. Now when you're going through this movement, you're going to start accelerating as you do. So the first one feels a bit funny, but as you get into the movement, it becomes more easier because you're getting momentum and you're getting a bit of speed. So balls your feet as your contact, straight leg, straight body, and accelerate into a 90 degrees. Again, slow down gradually on this one. Okay, so this is the last time we're going to be staying at 90%. After this, we're going to go up to 100% and loading it under a bit of fatigue. And after so many weeks, you know, nearly 12 weeks now of doing this stuff, should be fairly safe now to do max speed. It's also a great exercise for obviously stimulating the hamstrings and getting the hamstrings stronger and more functional in the movement they have to be strong in. So really good exercise to benefit the injury prevention side of things. But I hope you see progression here with that rotational balance. We have now 90% of max speed, and we have the acceleration, deceleration stuff coming in, which is very applicable to what your sport's going to demand of you very soon. So I hope you enjoy it. Keep up the training, keep consistency in your program. We'll put up the schedule, what we'd like you to see this week, and I hope you enjoy your training.